When I'm feeling the pain, I'm feeling the shame. Will I go numb? Will I go insane? It's cold. Yeah. Shout out FHTMG, shout out Abu Dhabi. Yeah. Running from the feeling the pain, the feeling the shame. Will I go numb? Will I go insane? No. I just gotta pray. Oh, I just gotta pray. Running from the feeling the pain, the feeling the shame. Or will I go numb or go insane? No, you gotta pray. Oh, I gotta pray. I gotta pray for that. 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 Allah be sending, I need a favor. Could you forgive me? Could you forgive me? Raised in America, around all these terrorists. That's how I'm living. It's just how I live. And I know you give me so many chances. Stop being silly. Stop being silly. But I feel so tempted by women and winning. I've been distracted from what you've been giving. I live right dangling, want my decision. I'm trying to avoid the most fiery finish. Drop all the goons and drop all the gimmicks. Then get invested and sit with the message. Show some discretion, I live at attention. Live with your mention and live in remembrance. Can't run from, I can't run from running from the feeling the pain, the feeling the shame. Will I go numb? Will I go insane? No.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is our next episode, our latest episode of the fastest growing DMV show in the city. Is the People's Voice, DC. Today we have a special guest. Her name is going to be Chris Furness. She is one of the authors of the Homes Not Stadiums initiative. She is going to come back with us. We also have our guest from last week rejoining us, attorney Ari Teresa. We have our co-host with us, the former mayoral and Ward 1 city council candidate, Chris Otten. And this is going to be a very, very interesting episode. I encourage all comments. I encourage all questions. I encourage all fact checks. We're going to get right started with a quick video of a video. This video is actually a news clip from Fox 5, kind of introducing our next segment.
And a group of activists trying to prevent D.C. leaders from building a new Commander Stadium at the old RFK site.
The organization calls itself Homes Not Stadiums. It is launching a ballot initiative so voters can weigh in. Tom Fitzgerald's live at the RFK campus today. You talk with the organizers. What's the plan here?
Jim, forget the football analogy here, but their opening drive is this. They're aiming to get thousands of signatures on a petition drive to get on the ballot. This group says they believe that there's a better use for the 174-acre site here of RFK. In their view, that use is not a new football stadium, but instead affordable housing. The group calls itself Homes Not Stadiums, and their ballot question would essentially rezone the RFK Stadium site so it could only be used for affordable housing and not a possibly new stadium for the Washington Commanders. Now, there are a lot of questions about all this, but the organizers, like Kim Farish, tell Fox 5 that they believe that if D.C. tax dollars are going to be used on this project, then D.C. taxpayers should have a say in it.
People from D.C. could easily just travel to Largo and watch a game there at a stadium that is already built. Why do we need more stadiums? The city has limited land. And why are we prioritizing billionaires' playgrounds instead of affordable housing for people who live here?
Now, to make this happen, the group has already registered with the D.C. Board of Elections. They have to gather 2,300 signatures across the district if they want to be able to get this ballot question onto the ballot by July of 2026. Now, theoretically, even if this ballot question were to be approved by D.C. voters, the D.C. Council could essentially, put it aside by not funding it, not allowing it to go into effect. We spoke to a lot of folks here at RFK today. They wondered, why not have both? Why couldn't you have an NFL stadium and affordable housing?
I think both could exist because it was for many years. I actually grew up in this neighborhood.
There's no debate. We have to bring the team back home. It has to happen. There's no debate.
For sure, you have both. Affordable housing, something for everybody. Bringing out lots of, crowds back to the city.
Look, it's no secret that Mayor Bowser has been talking to the Washington Commanders about a possible framework of the funding of a possible Commanders Stadium. We did reach out to the mayor today. We did reach out to the Commanders. However, we did not.
Chris, Ari, Chris also. How are you guys doing? We'll start off with Attorney Teresa. Welcome back. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. You guys are going to forgive me for my dark camera. The people of DC, I am going to invest in stop being cheap and invest in a better light for my camera. I have gotten accustomed and spoiled to being at other places while recording, and I'm trying to turn my room into a mini studio, and going the cheap route is not working out for me. But if we had a little bit better affordable housing, perhaps I wouldn't mind investing more in a camera. How are you doing, Sir Chris Otten? How are you doing today?
Good. I'm in front of the social housing site in Montgomery County here. That's called the Laureate, and that would make getting studio equipment a lot cheaper because your housing would only cost 30% of your income, no more.
And that is how a guy like Chris will introduce himself. Madam Chris Furnish, the beautiful Madam Chris Furnish. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for having me on today to talk about such an important issue.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So let's dive right into it. We saw your comments on Fox 5 News on the clip, and we saw two groups of people. We saw some people that said, hey, we need to be thinking about housing. How dare we think about a stadium? And then we saw a couple of people that said, why can't we have both? Why can't both happen? After that, we saw you talking, and you, well, before that, maybe we saw you talking, and you said, one of the things you said was prioritize. The city should not prioritize a stadium, and your initiative says homes, not stadium. Your initiative doesn't, at least in the namesake of it, it doesn't appear that you feel like both can exist.
That's correct. And it's my opinion that even if the NFL or Josh Harris was going to put this money up himself for the stadium, it's still not a good idea. Because like I said in the interview, DC is only so big. And there's really not that much land left to develop in this city. So I think building a stadium is a terrible idea. I think it's going to make the rents go up even more. It's going to make, taxes go up for homeowners. It's going to create just so much disruption, traffic, pollution, noise. I know a lot of people who live in that neighborhood who say they don't want a stadium because of those reasons I just listed. They don't want people tailgating in their front yard and being drunk and peeing and, urinating in their front yards. Like, that's the kind of activity that stadiums bring to neighborhoods. And I don't think it's a good idea for so many reasons. But the main reason is because we need to prioritize affordable housing for people, for the next generation. Even people like us, we're all on this call here. And I'm sure we're all struggling to pay our rent. I live in a studio apartment in Ward 3, and I pay $1,600 to live in a dorm room, basically. And that's I don't think that's 30% of my income. I think that's a little more. And just like on top of that, the prices of things are going up. Just to live is very expensive. This is one of the most expensive cities to live in the whole country. And if we use that land to build a stadium and not homes, that's just going to make the problem worse. And I'll stop there if anybody else wants to comment.
Yeah, I'll definitely welcome Ari and Chris to jump in at any time. But I do want to also raise this, and I try to get as much as I can from the people. But there has been sayings such as the stadium's been there for years. I mean, let's face it, it's been there for years. It's just been sitting there. It's this big round bowl. The area around it is not east of the river. It's west of the river. And that area was going to progress. It was already headed towards gentrification. Taxes and home prices are already going up anyway. It was bound to the Commanders were bound to come back here from a long time ago. What do you guys have to say to that?
I'll let you guys speak first. Go ahead.
Hold on one second, Ari. You're muted.
You muted
ahead,
me.
Ari.
You did that.
Go ahead, Ari.
You muted me. You muted me.
You silenced him.
Yeah. Don't mute Ari. No. And, I'm gonna sound like a broken record. You asked in the very beginning, why can't we have both? I think that's a good question. Why can't we have both? Because it's not like this is something that's new. We've seen this all over the country. And this is a model of development we're all familiar with. And so when you ask the question, why can't we have both? I think that's a question that demands some examination. Because if we could have both, history would suggest that, we would have that, but we don't. So, if we can have both, it hasn't presented itself anywhere that I'm aware of. And I don't know why this would be any different. So, I kind of question if we can have both. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying I haven't seen it. And there's nothing in what's been proposed that makes this different from anything that's occurred anywhere else. In fact, when you look at the term sheet, it actually looks pretty bad for DC in terms of what's been offered or what we've offered. Well, one of the things that they've done is that the land is actually being leased to the owner. So technically DC still owns it, but what that does is makes it so there's no property taxes being paid on it. So there's like a tax break there. There's the actual cost of the land. When you look at the development of the stadium, the owner is not building anything underground. They call it horizontal development, which is supposed to be like the plaza and the surrounding, landscape. But really, they're like building the foundation of the stadium. The elevator system, the plumbing. They're like contributing a lot to the actual development of the stadium. And this is in addition to the $500 million. And so when you cost it all out, it's about $2.5 billion to $3 billion. And this is the kind of development that's happened all over the city, where you have development projects that have been gifted big breaks, big incentives to build, and that actually halts revenue streams and makes it so the payoff is somewhat of a gamble. What you're doing is you're betting, hey, we're pausing these revenue streams in anticipation that the revenue streams that come in will suffice in terms of like the stadium or whatever sales taxes happen. And it's a gamble, and it's kicking the can down the road, and it's more of the same thing. When you look at the term sheet and you look at other things that are happening in the city, ERAP going away, TOPA being attacked, the Rental Housing Act being attacked, it's almost like DC is on fire sale. Like everything is up for grabs. People's rights, land, and it gives off desperation. And you wonder how we ended up in this spot. And I know a lot of people want to blame, the Republican administration, different things like that, and some of that is to blame. But there's a lot of blame to go around. You're talking about a $400 million shortfall for a city that at one point during its peak had a $13 billion budget or a $17 billion budget, really high budget. And so you're talking about 400 million or 1 billion. It's going to be felt, but this is the convergence of a lot of things happening right now. And much of it has to do with policy decisions over the past decade and a half. And, I hate to see them just double down in that when there are opportunities to be creative and implement other solutions.
Chris, can I ask you a question? So you have this ballot initiative. When is that to be approved by the Board of Elections? Is that to come up soon?
Yeah, so July 2nd at 10:30 a.m., the board is going to have the proper subject matter hearing. So if anyone listening is in support of the initiative, I do encourage you to sign up to testify that day. You can do it in person or virtually. You can, you can speak, or you can submit a written testimony, whatever you're most comfortable with. But yes, July 2nd is the date that we are waiting for to get the petitions.
And so that would be, and can you turn your mic up just a little bit? It's a little hard to hear, but basically, I guess I wanted to ask you, so just brass tacks, that day, the Board of Elections decides whether or not to make the ballot initiative official with the language you submitted.
Yeah.
And they could also deny it. They could say this language isn't appropriate or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But
Do they,
we're pretty confident that it will get approved because of, we used a lawyer who
okay.
is very well versed on all of this stuff. So he did his research before we even created the actual language. So yeah, we think we'll get the green light.
And so Pastor Mike had just put up this graphic of the site, and I wanted to kind of bounce off of Ari's kind of insights into this. Basically, you have this site here. Now, Josh Harris, who bought the Commanders in 2023 from the prior plaque, bought it for $6 billion. He bought the team for $6 billion. Josh Harris, the owner. He's a multi-billionaire. He basically, if he gets the deal as I've seen and as Ari explained, he would basically, the district would own this land that was given to us by the feds, but Josh Harris would basically own the air rights above this land, including the stadium, for 99 years. So he would lease it for $1 a year for 99 years. Why would he, a billionaire? I mean, I know we can have affordable housing around there, but why would a billionaire want to build affordable housing around his stadium?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
I'm definitely not in the mind of a billionaire. I think these people live on another planet. So I really don't know how to answer that question, honestly.
Do you think he would want to, though? Like, what's the impetus to build affordable housing, like, for a billionaire? Like, is there what's the reason for it? Doesn't he want to maximize his profits so he can continue to grow his wallet?
I mean, I would assume so. I mean, if you look at other areas around the district that have a stadium, like the wharf over there, a Navy Yard, like that's not a neighborhood I would consider affordable for someone like us on this call. That's not even really a neighborhood at all. It's just luxury high-rise apartments, really expensive restaurants and concert venues.
Well, luckily there is one beautiful gem of culture still there left, and it happens to be public housing. A couple of public housing sites, right, Mike?
That's right.
That's where Mike grew up, or spent a lot of time in his youth. And I mean, I think Ari and I were talking after the last show. The reason why it's not completely blown out around that stadium with exactly what you're talking about, Chris, is because it's public housing that's there. It hasn't been uprooted yet. Is that fair to say, Pastor Mike? Is it because it's public housing that it hasn't been sort of thrown out yet and replaced?
It's fair to say, but I will throw in there that this city is not building more public housing. We may be fighting for more affordable housing or deeply affordable housing, but we aren't fighting for more public housing at all. And the way our city is going, as far as I don't know what the numbers may say or what people may say, but as far as my everyday friends that I communicate with, the way that the city is going is vouchers. And vouchers aren't going to public housing. Vouchers are going towards these areas where the stadium is being built, these areas to where the national stadium is. The people that I know that had issues with housing, they got vouchers and they moved into these very neighborhoods that people are saying, oh, they're not affordable anymore. They're doing a lot better.
What's the waiting list for vouchers these days? How long are people waiting for a voucher, Mike? I'm just curious. Do you know how long? I kind of know, but do you know how long folks are waiting for a voucher these days?
I mean, I've been on a list for 20 years.
Yeah, I heard on average it's 7 years to get your voucher. So if you're
I'm not debating that. What I'm saying is that that's the way that the city is going the way with vouchers. Now that the process with the vouchers definitely need to be fixed, but the city is going towards vouchers, and the people that are accepting the vouchers are these folks in these communities, like the ones that will be where the stadium is going to be built and where the national stadium is. I have another friend.
Here's the thing. Here's the problem with it. There's a problem with it, Mike. There's a limited number of vouchers, and it's the limitations on that is why it takes so long to get one, and that is fundamentally limited because of federal investment limitations, right? So the vouchers are principally paid by the U.S. government, the federal government, and they are cutting. I mean, particularly under this racist fascist administration, there is the absolute attack on, budgets that include vouchers. And so we're going to see that option continue to dry up. And this is kind of why, I went on that tour. I participated in that tour to the social housing, because it's just sort of, can we find alternatives that can use the local resources, including public land, to build like truly affordable housing that's part of a mixed income, sort of a similar result. A voucher holder can go into a mixed income community and not necessarily be tied to a public housing site. But it's similar in that way that the social housing is sort of this mixed income setup.
I mean, that's the solution. We know what the solution is. We know, I'm not gonna say that's the end all solution, but we know we need to pass the Green New Deal. It needs to get on the table. We need to pressure Robert White. We know what this city needs.
So that's where I wanted to, Chris, so that's I guess, Chris, when you talk about
when this has been on the stadium, this has been on the table for years before Josh Harris even bought the Commanders. We should have had the Green Deal passed. Come on.
Correct. So this is where I wanted to ask Chris. So when you say homes, not stadiums, you've seen that the inaction of the council to truly protect vulnerable DC communities, vulnerable DC residents and families. And so it's sort of it's a reaction, the initiative, would you say, to this prioritization suddenly of a stadium, billions of dollars for, I'm calling it luxury playtime, versus this stuff that's been bottled up in committee that would truly get us some truly affordable housing. Is that about right? It's like a reaction to the inaction of the council.
I think, the reason we resort to doing ballot initiatives in the first place is when we feel like we are not being heard by our elected officials. So we have to do it ourselves. And ballot initiatives just show how much support there is for an issue. Obviously, I understand that by signing a ballot initiative, or I don't know, I can't hear very well.
Actually, Ari, it sounds like the background of wherever you're at, Ari, is sort of interfering with the foreground of us. So maybe when you talk, unmute, but otherwise mute up.
I was going to say, by signing a petition doesn't necessarily mean that you are in support of the issue at hand. You could sign it and not be in support of it, but you do believe in democracy and want to put it on the ballot and let the people decide. So filing for this ballot initiative is definitely a reaction to the lack of concern within the council and the mayor about priorities. The city needs to prioritize what we've been talking about, taking care of the residents that live here and not building a playground for a billionaire. And I'm going to keep saying that because that's exactly what we're doing. We are building a playground for a billionaire.
Chris, there was two things in that Fox News report, and I'll shut up after this. Basically, I wanted to tease those out, and I wanted to verify those with you directly. The reporter said you need 2,300 signatures. I think he's off at 0.
Okay, Tom Fitzgerald really butchered a lot of that. He said my name wrong. How do you mess up Chris Furnish? I think he called me Kim or something. But I had to follow back up with him after that aired and correct him that we actually would need around 23,000, but we're actually aiming for 35,000 so that we have a safe cushion for ballot access, because obviously people are going to sign, they're not going to be registered for whatever reason, their signature will get thrown out. So we want to.
So it's like about 5,000 a ward, about 5,000 for 8 wards.
And the way ballot initiatives work in DC is you have to have 5% from 5 of the 8 wards. So technically, you could just forget about a couple of wards, not even go there. But we don't do it that way ever. We always want to engage with everybody in all 8 wards across the district. But yeah,
Right
technically, you would only need 5% from 5 of the 8 wards.
The other point he said was that, okay, this ballot initiative, so once you get the 35,000 signatures and you submit it to the Board of Election Ethics, and then they'll affirm it if the signatures all look good or a certain amount get knocked off, but you meet the threshold, and then they affirm it, and then it becomes law, whatever is written into the initiative itself, right? And so the reporter said, the Fox reporter said that, well, even if it gets passed, it seems like the council can just sort of annul it or just bifurcate it or do something later. You want to go into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way ballot initiatives work in the district, we have what's called the Home Rule Act, and it basically states that any ballot initiative cannot appropriate funds. So the council has to approve whether or not they're going to implement the funding that the new law needs to be enacted. So for example, we just passed Initiative 83 in this last election, which was to implement ranked choice voting and to allow independents to vote in the primaries. 73% of DC voters all across the district voted in favor of this new law. And it would only take I want to say $1.2 million over the course of a few years to actually implement the law. But the council and the mayor, they're all saying, we don't have the money for it, but we have the money for a stadium. I don't understand that. We don't have the money to implement the law that the voters passed. We don't have the money for a special election in Ward 8. So how do we have the money, almost $1 billion, to just give away for a stadium? And especially, I really want to raise the point of like Chris was talking about earlier, the owner is the one who gets to keep all the profits. The owner gets to own this land for 99 years for like $5 a year. What other business do you know gets handouts like that? I'm just saying, it's a scam. The owner keeps all the profits. None of the money goes back into the community, and we have to pay for it. It's a scam. So just to go back to the question, yes, something can go on the ballot. It can be passed overwhelmingly by the voters, and the council can choose to ignore the will of the voters. It's happened before. The mayor's trying to repeal Initiative 82, which we passed 2 elections ago that raised the minimum wage for tipped workers. The council overturned that the first time we passed it in, I think, 2017. So we did it again, and it got implemented, and now the mayor is threatening to repeal it. So there's just a lot of stuff that they can do. It's an attack on democracy, if you ask me, because I think the most purest form of democracy is through the people. Like, putting things on the ballot, getting out on the streets, talking, engaging voters about issues. I think that's the real way to do it. And the council, time and time again, has shown us, especially the mayor, that she is bought and paid for. She is not she doesn't represent the people. She represents these developers, these real estate companies, the owner of the Commanders. Like, she is bought and paid for. And it also has to go through Congress as well. So Congress can also throw it out. That's why we need statehood.
I appreciate that background. And I wanted to ask, I know it's such a huge lift. I mean, 35,000 signatures. I remember trying to get on the ballot for mayor, and I only needed 500, and I remember how difficult that was. What is it like? What kind of effort goes into collecting 35,000 signatures? What are you facing once July, you said 2nd or 9th happens with Board of Election ethics?
So yeah, collecting signatures is definitely hard work, but it is extremely rewarding because, I mean, I'm just speaking personally. I've worked on initiatives 81, 82, and 83. I've worked on the Jack Evans recall. It's really hard work, but it's so great to get out there and talk to people and, put these ideas in their heads and come up with better alternatives to the way that we've been doing things. Things that are going to make people's lives better, make people feel more heard, more seen, more represented. And it's just very rewarding work getting out there and getting to talk to people about these issues. And I think we don't even have the petitions yet. And we've been hearing from people all over the district how important this issue is. And, people are excited to get involved. People are donating. We've just put in our order for lamp street signs. So we'll be out putting up posters around the district to raise even more awareness. But it's really hard work, and it takes a village. We're probably going to need around 100 people out collecting every single day all over the city, hitting up the grocery stores and the farmers markets and the churches and just meeting people where they are and talking about this. And like I said, even if people are against what we're trying to do, I've had so many people sign a petition that they were against the idea, but they believed in democracy and they believed in putting it on the ballot, and they signed anyways. So
just one last question from me. Oh, go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to ask, and Mike, maybe you can kind of give some feedback on this as well from your perspective, because I know you're quite pro stadium. And, do you get a sense, Chris, how this might break? So you're tabling, you're outside of Safeway, let's say off Benning Road. How it might break along, it's just two scenarios. You're at a table outside of Whole Foods on P Street. You're at a table outside of Safeway on Benning Road. How is it going to break? Do you think there's class, race, sort of along class and race lines? Do you see it breaking a certain way? How do you engage different voters that way? Along race and class lines, and is it just simply a question? It's like, do you want this on the ballot, or what's your approach depending on where you're at in the city, and what kind of responses do you think you're going to get based on where you're at?
Well, I think for this issue specifically, you've got people of all demographics who want the stadium, who want to bring the team back. And that's understandable. I'm a sports fan too, but at the end of the day, when I'm engaging voters, I always keep it respectful.
I'm never there to argue or, make somebody feel bad for their opinions. Everybody has their rights to their opinion. I'm there to educate. I'm there to inform. I'm there to give the facts. And after an interaction with somebody, if they don't want to sign, that's fine. I wish them a great day, and at least I've planted a seed in their mind. And sometimes I will interact with people who are totally against whatever ballot initiative we have going on. And then I run into the same person a few weeks later, and they went home after seeing me the first time. They did their own research. They formed their own opinion, and when I saw them again, they signed my petition. So there's always room to change people's minds, especially when you're able to present them with the realities, with the facts, and the data and everything like that. So I can definitely see this being a very heated discussion out on the streets. But that never stops me from doing what I need to do, what I feel is the best, And I'm not alone. I keep saying me, but I'm definitely not alone in this. Got a whole coalition of folks who are in strong support of this initiative. And I think it just takes a little bit of educating folks on the details of it all. I think people get hung up on just the excitement of having the football team coming back, and they don't really understand all of the ins and outs of how this deal is going to work and where the money's coming from. And once you kind of are able to explain that to folks, most of the time they have a different opinion. So I always just like to leave people to their own opinions. They have their right, but I always encourage people to do what they need to do to learn about what's going on, and I just keep it respectful.
I want to take a moment and define the word investment. The investment is traditionally defined as the commitment of resources into something expected to gain value over time. If an investment involves money, then it can be defined as a commitment of money to receive more money later. The mayor and even my council member, Wendell Felder, in the Great Ward 7, amen, but have often referred to this stadium deal as an investment. Even when you look at the plans, the layout that we showed earlier on the show, you can see that there are plans for investment. So what is your response to the promise of, yes, we are putting in money? However, this is the way that an investment works. The people will benefit because of how much we will get back. I posted it earlier on social media after I saw it, and we put it here on the show. Let's see if we can get it back up here. But just recently, I believe it was either yesterday